Hello, my name is Jimmy and this is One Big Mini. Sharing its platform with the BMW X1 as well as the BMW 2 Series Grand Coupe, this has more to do with a BMW than it does with Mini. But that's not a bad thing. This specific example that we have here is the 2022 Mini Cooper S Space E Countryman all-4 plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. Yes, it's a plug-in hybrid, which means it can get 29 kilometers of range or about 18 miles. Now that's definitely not a lot of range, but for a city vehicle, that's not too bad. And at 58,000 Canadian dollars before any incentives, at least here in BC, it's only about $4,000 after incentives above the regular Cooper S. So is this worth it? Let's take a look. But first, styling. As styling is subjective, you can let me know what your thoughts are of the Mini in the comment section down below. But the front end is quite distinctively Mini. You got the bulbous headlights, they are LED, and I do like the signature daytime running lamps that it have on it. You also get that replicated on the fog lamps now as well. It's a good looking front end. As it is a Countryman, we do have some body cladding, 18-inch wheels, and because it is a plug-in hybrid, we get the plug right here. You do get proximity door locks on the front doors, but unfortunately not on the rear. And then around back, you do get a little roof spoiler on top, the Union Jack taillights, which I do really like. And that's basically it. I mean, it got an update back in 2021, so you got the updated taillights, bumpers, and whatnot. Overall, it's still a really good looking Mini. One thing you do miss out on, I'm not sure if this is a chip shortage thing or not, but unfortunately, no power tailgate here. Just a manual tailgate. Some may miss that, some may not. But what it does do is reveal 17 cubic feet of space. Certainly not too bad, but it is definitely less than the regular Countryman. But in terms of actually like how much you can throw in here, here's a compact Baby Zen yo-yo stroller. And if you need a full-size stroller, here's an Uppa Baby Cruise. As you can see, definitely not a lot of space. Or if you need a set of golf clubs, here's how much room it takes. While it's definitely not the largest in its class, it's still usable, I would say. But let's check out the interior. As for the back seat, I mean, I'm 5'11", I got enough headroom, legroom is good as well. One thing to note, because this is a plug-in hybrid, the rear seats are actually a little bit higher because of that battery placement. And because of that, you lose out a little bit of headroom. But like I said, I'm 5'11" and I'm perfectly fine. I mean, unless you're carrying 6 foot, 7 foot people in here, well, then you might have smaller problems, but other than that, you should be okay. You do get some vents as well as USB charge points back here, which is nice. And if you're thinking of fitting child seats, not a problem at all. On the passenger side here, this is a Collect FIMP, which is a rearward facing car seat. As you can see, fits perfectly within the cabin. The door opening is a little bit smaller, so getting your child in and out might be a little bit difficult, especially if they're a little bit bigger. On the driver's side here, this is a Collect Ling. This is an infant seat. I did have to move the driver's seat a little bit forward comparing to my regular 5'11" driving position, but definitely not cramped. The doors themselves don't open a full 90 degrees, but it's enough to get the child seat itself in. In terms of lower anchors, you do have one on the driver's side and one on the passenger side, and there's 3 upper anchors across the rear bench. But it's not likely that you're going to be fitting 3 car seats in here, maximum 2. But let's move up to the front. As for the front seats, they're plenty comfortable. This isn't real leather, this is just leatherette, but they are heated, which is nice. If you want real leather, you have to step up to the special edition, the Untamed edition, for $3,000 more to get actual leather. But you know what? I think it's plenty fine. They hold you in nice because, well, they actually have relatively large bolsters on the side, which I do like. In front of me, pretty typical Mini steering wheel. You got all the buttons that you need. The thumb grips are nice and large. It is a little chunky for some people, but I think it's absolutely fine. You do get a heated steering wheel as well, compared to the older ones, which wasn't even an option. But the button is very similar to like older BMWs. It's actually right on the column here. Behind that, you do get this newer digital cluster. It's, well, partial digital because there's an actual like gauge that's on the left-hand side to show you like your power. But I think it's fine. It shows you everything that you really need. I didn't have any problems with the old cluster, and I thought the old cluster was actually kind of cute. But this, it looks a little bit better, a little bit more futuristic. What doesn't look futuristic, this heads-up display. It's the older pop-up plexiglass type of heads-up display. Personally, I'm just not a big fan of them because, well, the distance between that and, well, what you're actually looking at on the road, it's quite far. So far, in fact, that to the regular cluster, it's not that big of a difference. So, I mean, if you're looking down that far anyways, might as well just look at the cluster. I mean, at least it's there, but personally, I'm just not a big fan of them. What I do like is this big circular hub in the center here, which houses your infotainment. It does have a volume knob, and you get your iDrive controller in the center. The system has been updated, so the graphics is a little bit better. You do have wireless CarPlay. It just looks quite good, and I actually quite like it. It's quite intuitive to use, like most BMW or Mini products. And you do have 6 presets on the bottom as well. Same thing with the climate control, very, very easy to use. All the buttons that you need are there. And below that, you got a few toggle switches as well. I mean, it's very typical Mini in here, and there's nothing really wrong with it. So like if you're in basically any Mini product since, well, the reincarnation of the Mini, you can just jump in here and you'll know exactly where your buttons are. And it's such a kind of inviting cabin as well, because there's plenty of light thanks to the large sunroof that I have on top. But let's talk about the engine on this, because it's actually quite different. Because under the hood, you get a 1.5 liter turbocharged 3-cylinder. It makes 134 horsepower and 122 pound-feet of torque. That's mated to a 6-speed automatic and drives the front wheels. In the back, you got an electric motor that puts out 87 horsepower and 122 pound-feet of torque. Combined, makes 221 horsepower and 284 pound-feet. And what that all means is if you press the pedal all the way down, you can get to about 60 miles per hour in under 6 seconds, which is the second fastest Countryman after the JCW, and it's faster than the regular Mini Cooper S. So in terms of acceleration, it's not too bad. However, if you're just using the electrical motors like I am right now, well, it's not slow, but it's definitely not fast by any means. I mean, if I put it all the way down, pretty average acceleration. For most use cases, that's absolutely fine, but you're definitely not getting tons of power. Torque is pretty good though. I mean, it is a Mini after all, so the thing that really stands out isn't so much power. It never is the Mini way. What Mini's always been good for is handling and just how it feels. That's kind of a 2-part thing. Steering, super accurate like Minis always are. Like, it's a really quick rack, which means that just a little bit of movement helps you kind of dart. And it just makes the car, like, it just feels more nimble. It's great. However, this being a plug-in hybrid means that it's carrying quite a bit of weight. At almost 4,000 pounds, this really isn't, well, the Mini that you're expecting. The lightest Mini is like 1,500 pounds less than this, which is absolutely crazy. So having the Mini name just really means you get the feeling and sensation, but it doesn't really drive like a Mini should. It's a lot heavier than that, and you definitely feel it around corners because it does lean a little bit more than you expect. The ride is sporty. It's not rough. However, it doesn't soak up bumps like, well, the BMW X1 may. And because this is based on the older X1, you don't get a lot of the, well, safety features that you're expecting in this kind of price segment. So you do have adaptive cruise control, which is, well, I mean, pretty norm these days, but you don't have lane keep assist. You got lane departure warning, and you also don't get blind spot warning. Something that, for the money that you're paying, you kind of want. So is it worth it? Like I said, here in Vancouver, at about $4,000 more than the Mini Cooper S, I think it is. Because $4,000 is about, I mean, depending on how you drive, how far, 2-3 years, you can earn that back. And because it's a plug-in hybrid, there's incentives. You can go on to like the HOV lanes. So there are positives to it. And sometimes like in parking areas, you can get priority parking because you're a plug-in hybrid. And if your commute is short enough, you don't have to use the gasoline engine at all. So like I said, there's definitely positives about it. However, if you're looking at it as, should I get it as, well, a really good plug-in electric vehicle with extended range or something like that? Probably not. I mean, if you're kind of cross-shopping this with a Prius Prime or a RAV4 Prime, you're probably not gonna like this because of that electrical range. However, if you're a Mini owner, if you have just a regular Mini Cooper, a 2-door or a 5-door, and you're thinking, well, maybe it's time to grow up a little bit, maybe start a family, have something that's just a little bit, well, more spacious. This is definitely that step up that a lot of people do like. And it's easy to step out of a regular Mini and into a Countryman because it's so familiar. And because it's different than your traditional kind of SUVs, well, at least you stand out a little bit. And it drives well. So in that sense, absolutely. And if that's something that you're looking into, definitely take a look at it. And that untamed version at $3,000 more, that does cross over to that $60,000 mark. Yes, still Canadian, but that's quite a bit of money. But a special edition is always cool. And you might be able to get your return on that investment a little bit later on, because there's maybe sometimes people in the end looking for those special editions. But in any case, thank you so much for watching this video. Like the video if you do, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.